Yeah, this has been a great time for me, but I've been very fortunate. Catherine and I have been together, it'll be 25 years come this year.
What happens when Hollywood's most envied marriage becomes its most misunderstood tragedy? For over 2 decades, the world watched Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones live what appeared to be an impossible dream. The legendary actor and the Welsh beauty. 25 years separating them, yet somehow they made it work. Or did they? Today, we're talking about one of entertainment's most fascinating relationships. This isn't just another celebrity gossip story. This is about 2 people who chose each other against all odds, broke apart, and somehow found their way back. Because the truth about their marriage? It's nothing like what you've been told. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover will make you question everything you thought you knew about love, fame, and the price of living in the spotlight. Let me take you back to autumn 1998, Deauville, France, a film festival glowing with champagne and possibility. Michael Douglas was 54 years old, recovering from back surgery and quietly battling addictions that Hollywood whispered about but never named. He was a man carrying decades of weight on his shoulders, the shadow of his legendary father Kirk Douglas, a string of broken relationships, and the exhausting performance of being Michael Douglas. Then Catherine walked into the room. Dark hair cascading, eyes that held both fire and mystery, a confidence so striking it seemed to bend time itself. She was there celebrating The Mask of Zorro, the film that would make her a global sensation. And Michael? He did something completely outrageous.
Is it true that Michael Douglas said to you on your first date that he would be the father of your children?
Yes, he did.
And what did you say?
No.
No.
And then you filed a restraining order?
You just think about that for 2 minutes. You're meeting a guy, you've read a lot about him, you've seen a lot about him, and everything is true. And that's exactly what I said to him.
He walked up to this woman he'd just met and said, "I'm going to be the father of your children." The entire room went silent. Was this charm? Arrogance? Insanity? Catherine didn't smile. She looked him dead in the eyes and replied, "You should wake up before you say things like that." Then she walked away. Most men would have been crushed. But Michael felt something else, a spark of recognition, like meeting someone who could see through every layer of armor he'd built over 50 years of life. 3 days later, she sent him a message through a mutual friend. "I'm ready to hear you say that again, but this time, mean it." And this time, he did. What followed seemed pulled straight from a Hollywood screenplay. Dinners in Aspen, 5-hour conversations that stretched into dawn, letters across continents, hours of phone calls between London and Los Angeles. In August 2000, while Catherine was pregnant with their first child, Dylan, Michael proposed. He brought his mother's ring, a symbol of legacy and promise. When he opened that box, Catherine cried. But her response carried a warning that Michael wouldn't fully understand until years later. "Only if you promise to never make me feel like I'm just another part of your story." They married on November 18, 2000, at the Plaza Hotel in New York. The guest list read like a who's who of Hollywood royalty: Jack Nicholson, Sharon Stone, Steven Spielberg, Anthony Hopkins. Everyone called them the golden couple. The age gap? Irrelevant. The cultural differences? Charming. The warning signs? Invisible. On their wedding night, surrounded by white roses, Catherine asked Michael a question. "Do you believe in destiny?" "If destiny is you," he answered, "then yes." She smiled, but her next words carried prophetic weight. "I believe destiny is a test." A test of what? The endurance of love. At the time, Michael laughed. He had no idea she was preparing him for what was coming. Here's what the tabloids never understood. Their problems weren't about love. They were about identity. After Dylan was born in 2001, Catherine sat by the crib one evening, her gaze distant and troubled. Michael asked what she was thinking. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Scared of what?" That one day people will look at me and only see Michael Douglas's wife. He laughed it off, assured her she was so much more than that. But looking back, Michael realizes her fear was completely founded. His light, the fame, the legacy, the towering presence of being Hollywood royalty constantly overshadowed her accomplishments. She was an Oscar winner, a talented actress, a force in her own right. But to the world, she was Mrs. Douglas. When their second child, Carice, was born in 2003, Michael was 59. Catherine had just turned 34. Beautiful moments were now punctuated by exhaustion, by the relentless pressure of public scrutiny, by the widening gap between their life stages. The fairy tale was becoming something else entirely, something raw and real and difficult. Then came 2010, and everything shattered. Michael was diagnosed with throat cancer, stage 4, life-threatening. The kind of diagnosis that forces you to confront mortality head-on. Catherine stood by him through every treatment, every dark moment, every terrifying possibility. She was his rock when he needed her most. But while they were fighting cancer together, another battle was raging in the shadows. Sexual misconduct allegations, infidelity rumors, a media circus that painted their marriage as a scandal rather than a partnership surviving impossible odds. For Catherine, it was devastating. Every film premiere became an interrogation about her husband's behavior rather than her craft. Directors grew wary of hiring her, afraid of the controversy that seemed to follow their name. The woman who had won an Academy Award for Chicago was now being defined solely by tabloid headlines. And through it all, she was also privately battling bipolar disorder, a condition that required treatment, privacy, and understanding. Instead, she got cameras in her face and questions about whether her marriage was falling apart. In 2013, they announced their separation. The world was shocked. How could the golden couple fail? What happened to the fairy tale? But anyone paying attention knew the truth. They didn't fail because they stopped loving each other. They separated because they were drowning. And sometimes you need to let go to catch your breath. Here's what most people get wrong about their reunion. It wasn't some grand romantic gesture. It wasn't a public declaration. It was two people who had burned everything down, sitting in the ashes, and choosing to rebuild. Michael and Catherine didn't get back together because marriage counseling fixed everything. They came back because they finally understood something crucial. Love isn't about holding someone forever without letting go. Love is about coming back after you've released your grip and still recognizing that person as home. Catherine once said to Michael during this period, "I used to think our love was wrong. And now?" he asked. "Now I think it wasn't wrong, just too real." Too real? Real enough to hurt. But I couldn't live without it. That's when Michael finally understood. They didn't love each other because they needed each other. They loved each other because after everything, the cancer, the scandals, the separation, the pain, they still chose each other. Not the fantasy version, the real, flawed, complicated version. Today, Michael Douglas is 80 years old. Catherine is 55. They've been married for over 2 decades, though not all of those years were lived together under the same roof. Their story isn't a warning about age gaps or a cautionary tale about Hollywood marriages. It's something far more profound. It's about two people who learned that forgiveness isn't the end of love, it's love's deepest and most mature form. It's about a woman who refused to disappear into her husband's shadow, even when the world tried to erase her. It's about a man who learned that strength isn't about never breaking, it's about being vulnerable without shame. Michael once wrote a letter that he keeps locked in a safe, to be opened only if he passes away first. It's written on simple paper, in his own handwriting. No lawyer drafted it, no publicist polished it. Just raw truth from a man who's lived long enough to know what matters. In it, he wrote something Catherine has never read. "You once said I taught you how to live strong. But the truth is, You taught me how to be weak without shame. You showed me that breaking down doesn't mean breaking apart. If there's another life, I don't want to be James Bond or Gordon Gekko. I just want to be the man standing backstage, waiting for you to walk onto the stage. Every morning now, Michael makes coffee in their kitchen while Catherine plays music in the next room. She sings softly, sometimes off-key, her voice drifting through the house like a gentle reminder that perfection was never the point. He hears it all, every note, every breath, because in that imperfect melody is his entire life. Their marriage wasn't perfect. It almost destroyed them both. But it also taught them something the world desperately needs to understand. Love doesn't have to be easy to be real. It doesn't have to be painless to be worth it. It doesn't have to look like a fairy tale to be the most important story of your life. Sometimes the greatest love stories are the ones where people fall apart, face their demons separately, stare into the abyss of loneliness, and then, against all logic, against every rational thought, choose to come back together. Not because they forgot the pain, but because they decided the person waiting on the other side of that pain was worth every moment of darkness. That's not just love. That's courage. Not because they have to, but because they want to. So when you see Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones on a red carpet, smiling for cameras, understand this. Those smiles aren't fake. They're hard-won. They're the product of 2 decades of battle, breakdown, and choosing each other over and over again. And maybe that's the real fairy tale. Not the one where everything is perfect from the start, but the one where 2 imperfect people decide that their imperfect love is still worth fighting for. Because in the end, that's what love really is. Not the absence of pain, but finding meaning within it. If this story resonated with you, drop a comment below about your own experience with love that wasn't perfect, but was real. And if you believe that true love can survive even the darkest storms, hit that subscribe button because stories like this deserve to be told. Thank you for watching.